Hello my friends, and welcome back to Nick's Pretty Good Test Kitchen, where today I will be making dumplings and testing whether oats are a good alternative to breadcrumbs. So here's my mise en place all laid out, and I'm going to start by washing some green onions. This is followed, of course, by chopping some green onions. And I'm going to use both the whites and the greens here. Not only are green onions super good with pork, they're also good with ginger, which is the other dominant flavor in this recipe. I'm going to set my mandolin to the julienne mode so I can julienne some carrot. These will, I think, provide a nice sweetness and a nice crunch to my dumplings. I'm also using the cut-proof glove because the mandolin is super dangerous. Then I'm going to get out my microplane zester thing and go to work on some ginger. And I heard somewhere that a lot of the ginger flavor comes from the skin, so I do not take the skin off of the ginger. Next, I'm going to grab my porks, open it awkwardly, and put it in a mixing bowl, followed by all of the veggies that I just cut up. I probably could have made this easier on myself using my scooper, but it was all the way 10 feet away. Next, we're going to add some bacon to add some much needed fat to our dumpling mixture here. Sweet flip. Now we only need a couple of slices of bacon because we don't want to overpower anything here. And I'm going to cut these into pretty small pieces just to make sure they mix in well and cook well. Dumplings do really well with fat, so we're going to add a little bit more later also, but I like bacon as a fat and flavor source for this recipe. So, super small chops, and then another opportunity to use my handy scooper blows right by me as I add the bacon into our mixture. Next, I'm going to start a mixture using apple cider vinegar to start, because it's very tasty with pork, and one egg. Similar to doing a meatloaf, I'm going to use this mixture to soften up our oats before adding it into our meat mixture. I'm also going to add a little bit of half and half to this. I would have used milk, but we didn't have any. So, whisk, whisk, whisk. Now comes the oats. You might have noticed I'm not measuring any of this. I rarely do unless I'm baking. This is not something that needs to be exact. So, whisk, 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 and then I'm going to let this sit for a while and move on to spices. Now, I didn't feel like I needed a whole lot of additional spices to this, as a lot of the flavor will come from the ginger and the green onions. So I'm going to start with a little garlic powder, and then I'm also going to add some dried ginger, because I want ginger really to be the dominant flavor of this. A little bit more. Then I'm going to take some tamari that I had from making miso and add that into my liquid mix, as well as a little bit of garlic miso. These are fully optional, I just thought they'd give a little background deepness to the whole thing. So I'm going to whisk all that together. Whisk, 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 and then that can go back to sitting. Then I'm going to add what I've heard called Maris Bibir, but some people call Aleppo powder. And here you see me deciding that I need a little turmeric in there as well. Turmeric is really good with pork, and I think blends well with the other stuff that I got in there. Here you see me trying to decide if I want to put anything else in there. I've got some interesting flavors going on so far, but was not 100% satisfied yet. So I decided to add a little bit of green cardamom. This was followed by just a little bit of black pepper that I think I added just out of habit more than anything else. I don't think it actually added anything to the dish and was sort of a dumb idea, but the green cardamom ended up working out though, so I'm pleased I did that. So grind, 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 and then add all that in, and then I'm ready to mix it up. I prefer to use a mixer for this step because I've heard that the heat from your hands makes meat tough. I also called an audible here and added a little bit of soy sauce. And then here's me adding more fat. Finally, I'm going to add my hopefully now softened oats with an obligatory piece of garlic from the garlic miso. Making sure to get all that goodness in there, and then I'm going to cover it and let it hang out in the fridge and let all those flavors meld together. Also, pro tip, there's no reason not to push the saran wrap all the way down on it. Now it's time to start on the dough. Again, not measuring anything, I'm just going to add bread flour to my mixer in a reasonable amount. To that, I'm going to add some hot water, not necessarily boiling, just hot, until it forms what is known in the business as a shaggy dough. I'm then going to let this sit for about 15 minutes, during which time it will go through a process called autolyse, which just means the flour is getting fully hydrated. So I'm going to cover it and let it do that, again pushing the saran wrap all the way down because why not? Here we are 15 minutes later, and we're kneading the dough while adding oil to it. This process starts out looking like the dough broke, but it will come together and make a really nice soft dough. This also takes a little bit of practice to get the amounts right, but if you need to add more flour or water or oil, it's really not a big deal. And you can see me here in a moment adding more flour because I did not like how slack the dough was. So a little bit more flour, a pinch at a time, until it looks about right. Also, the kneading process should make it nice and smooth, and you'll see me here take it out and give it a check to see if it's where I want it to be. And it, in this case, is not. So I put it back in and knead it some more. Now, this is the second time I'm testing it, and it looks and feels a lot better to me. Still doesn't quite have the gluten I'm looking for, but resting it will allow more gluten to develop. So I'm going to cover that and let it sit for about an hour. Then an hour later, I'm going to start by mixing up this slurry. This is a method I stole from a chef named Sola El-Wahi, and it involves making a slurry of cornstarch, flour, salt, and water. And you'll see what we use that for here in a moment. So I'm going to mix that up in this bottle, the usefulness of which you'll soon see. And then next, I need to get out my pan and get some oil going in it, specifically on medium heat. Here you see me doing what I normally do and using my noodle roller to roll out the dough. This, for whatever reason, did not work this time, so I called an audible and we're doing it a different way. Bonus footage of me resetting the timer on my black garlic. So instead of rolling it out and then cutting it with a biscuit cutter, we're going to cut individual pieces and roll them out separately. Here I'm just covering them in flour so they don't stick together in the pile, and then I'm going to roll it out into about a circle. This does not need to be perfect with the little device I'm going to use in a second here. So I'm going to roll this out into not even close to a circle, and then I'm going to grab this super cheap dumpling maker. And while I could do the folds by hand, I am terrible at it. So I'm just going to wet one edge here, and then I'm going to add in a spoonful of my filling. And I almost always put in too much, but this little dumpling maker thing is pretty idiot-proof. So I make sure my dough is spread out far enough here. Then I smoosh it all together. Lo and behold, I've got a dumpling. Now this part is the part I stole from Sola El-Wahi, where she puts all her dumplings in the pan, and I do it in a nice little fan shape like this. And while it's not necessary to do it in a nice shape, the first bite is with the eye, so I feel like it's important. And I can sometimes fit 8 in this particular pan, but this time with the overhang I had, I only got 7. Still, I managed a nice looking star flower shape thing. Anyway, making sure they all at least touched the oil, I arranged them to my liking. And then I'm going to take the squirt bottle of slurry that I made and spray it in there and then quickly cover them, allowing them to steam. This results in what Sola calls a skirt that is crispy and generally just really nice to eat with your dumplings. So one final squirt, and then I put the top on and let those cook while I make more dumplings. Side note, I would normally let these cook for longer and get them really crispy on the bottom, but I was worried about burning them for the video. And as long as the pork inside is cooked, they don't need to be super brown on the bottom. Now it's time for a taste test, and while you can't taste it, you can trust me when I say that using the oats inside worked perfectly. They were in fact very moist and very tasty. And I grabbed a little bit more of my homemade tamari, sprinkled that on there, and went in for another taste. And that was even tastier. So, total success, I think. So, there you have it. Like I say, I think this test was a total success. I think using oats in pot stickers is gonna be my way to go from now on. And I will definitely continue to do this skirt thing that I got from Sola. I think that it's a really nice way to do dumplings and happens to make for a beautiful presentation as well, in my opinion. If you want to see the Sola video, I think it's called something like Sola and Brad Make Dumplings. It's on the YouTube, just search that and it will come up. Also, feel free to check out my Pum Anna video, where I test a springform pan to make Pum Anna. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.